Hey guys, it's Craig here and welcome back to my channel and to my new kitchen as well. Cheers. But this isn't a cooking video. This is a beer tasting video. And you might remember that a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, I decided to brew up a pre-hopped beer kit and kilo with table sugar. And I filmed it, and so we had a little bit of fun there. And now we've got the beer. I just poured it, and I swear I have not tasted this. I mean, I think I took a little bit out of the siphoning hose when I put it into the keg. It wasn't carbonated yet. I couldn't tell. So this is the first time I've tasted it, and I just poured this out of the keg. I carbonated it. So let's taste it first before it loses its integrity, and then we'll talk about this, all right? Here we go. Cheers, everybody. 17. I've never brewed with table sugar before. Ever. 30 years of brewing beer in all kinds of different ways. And I never knew that you could actually, if you're using sugar as an adjunct or a fermentable, you could use table sugar. I can't tell. Here's the thing too, is that when I actually made the video, I kind of made a mistake. I was showing you a Cooper's English Bitter instead of a Cooper's IPA, because I bought them both, and I forgot that I had two different kinds. So that was an error. So this isn't a Cooper's IPA. This is a Cooper's English Bitter, and somebody pointed that out in the comments. Thank you. And I went back and looked and went, oh yeah, that's right. That was an English Bitter. The Cooper's IPA is still sitting waiting to get brewed, fermented. So anyway, as far as I know from what I remember tasting a Cooper's English Bitter, which is another one of my favorite kits that they put out, I can't tell that it was brewed with table sugar. Now, I'm going to continue to, see if I can notice it as it warms up. If you're a kit brewer and you use sugar to boost your alcohol, I would say that this is not bad at all. I can't tell. It might be a little bit tiny bit sweeter than when you do it with the dextrose, which is corn sugar. But without a side-by-side comparison, I can't really tell you that for sure. So, yes, you can use table sugar if you can't get corn sugar. This is not bad at all for a kit and kilo beer. Now, some of the things I noticed, one thing I noticed actually is that there was comments in the on the last video down below where a couple people were saying that it might take longer to ferment because this table sugar is, more complex and the yeast has to sort of dismantle it before it can consume it. So it might take a little longer. And it did sort of seem like it was not getting going as quick, but it did ferment quickly after a while. And it actually finished before I thought it would. So, but when I took one of the things I didn't do, which I should have, is I used a food scale to weigh it so that I made sure it was exactly 1 kilogram of dextrose. And it measured differently than corn sugar. In other words, it took up less space than regular corn sugar dextrose does. So I made sure it was the same weight, 1 kilogram. And I didn't take an initial gravity reading, which I should have. That was a bad thing for me to forget, because it would have been nice to know the readings and what, was going on, but I didn't do it. But I did take a reading at the end of the fermentation when I could see that it was finished, and it was 1.002. That's lower than what I'm used to. Usually when I finish fermenting my beers, doing it this way with regular corn sugar, or any other way I've done it, it's 1.008, 1.010, something in their range, sometimes even a little bit more, 1.012. This was almost all the way down to 1.000. And I'm like, wow, this beer must be strong. It's either very strong beer, or the sugar fermented out more than the corn sugar does, because that's so close to 1.000. I've never had that happen before. So I'd have to do this again, which I'll do. I don't care. I'll do it. It tastes fine. And I'll have to take the gravity reading at the beginning before I pitch the yeast, and then at the end again to see what kind of a thing we're getting. But all I know is that this fermented down quite far with 1 kilogram of normal granulated table sugar. So a lot of you guys chimed in and said, hey, I've been doing this for a long time and I can't notice. Other people said that they could notice a bit of a cidery taste. Don't forget, I'm using that great yeast that I've been using for 1.5 years. So that's another factor. This is not, I don't have a control for this experiment. I'm not using the Cooper's kit with the Cooper's yeast and the Cooper's recipe, to compare this against, because I don't ever do that. I do my own stuff with their kits. I don't use their yeast. I personally don't really like their yeast. Just my personal opinion. Compared to the yeast that I'm using, which I've been using for, again, 1.5 years. Same strain, same yeast, just, keep on taking it out, putting it in a jar, put it in the fridge. It's free. It's free yeast. So this isn't really a perfect experiment, but I will tell you that I will drink this and I will enjoy it. And if I ever run out of corn sugar, or if I feel like I need to save a little bit more money, I'll just use regular sugar. It might have a slightly more sweetness or something to it, a layer to it. And I know this isn't an all grain beer or anything like that. I mean, I'm standing here acting like I'm a professional brewer. I'm not. This channel came about by accident. This wasn't supposed to happen. It's almost 78,000 subscribers. This wasn't planned. And so, I don't have all the equipment and everything. I just do this and we're okay. But with that said, the way I do this, the way I make my beer, it's possible that there's a slight, aftertaste maybe, but it's not worth really worrying about. Some people might taste it differently, and I know, there's people out there who probably drink this and go, ugh, 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 But to me, this tastes a heck of a lot better than the stuff I can go up the street and buy from the beer store. So, and I mean that sincerely. I mean, unless I pay top dollar for, beer, craft beer, which, is, forget it. I mean, it's a treat if you want to do that here where I live. But if I'm just going to buy the run-of-the-mill cheap beer that people march out with on their shoulder like that, this tastes better. Even this does. And I mean that sincerely. To me, it does. But then there's people out there that won't drink that store-bought, run-of-the-mill beer. And I don't like to, but sometimes if I run out or if I forget to brew or I run behind, I have to go and buy that. I buy the cheapest beer I can find, and believe me, it's not pleasurable to drink it. I'm basically drinking it to catch a buzz, not for the flavor. There's people who would drink this who would be like, ugh, it's horrible, because they've got the whole thing going on in their garage and everything, and they're making this great beer, which I appreciate and I love. I've got some beer coming in the mail soon that I'm going to be reviewing. But there's also people out there that don't like chocolate, right? So, chocolate is like, it's the best thing in the world. Chocolate, if you could just eat chocolate all day, that would be amazing. But, of course it's got sugar and, caffeine and whatnot. So, but there's people who don't like chocolate. So everyone's got their own taste profile about what they like. And I could make an amazing soup or chili or dish of whatever, chicken cordon bleu or whatever in here, and everyone's going to like it except one person might not. They might go, no, that's not hitting me right. So that's the thing we have to all remember, is that if someone comes in here and goes, hey, Craig, can I taste one of your home brews? Sure. Here you go. And he's like, wow, that's pretty good, man. Another guy might go, oh my God, this is horrible. This guy invited me over for a free beer and I'm going to tell him it sucks? No, I can't do that. Hey, Craig, this is awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's not bad, is it? Really? So what do? You look at the price, you figure it out, you decide how tolerant you are to a slightly different flavor profile. I'd have to try this with the Cooper's IPA because that's what I normally drink when I make beer. But my final thought about it is that it's fine to use regular table sugar in these beers. It's fine to do it. If that's all you've got, or if you want to save a few dollars, that's perfectly fine to do. Perfectly fine. That's my opinion. Okay? All right. So that's that. Now, the other thing is I've got a new shirt out. Tube Radio. That's the name of my station, if you want to call it a station. My channel, my radio show, my whatever it is you want to call it, on Friday nights, 10 p.m. on Toronto, New York time, 10 p.m. Friday nights, Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Time, whatever the heck you call that. And it's called Tube Radio because I kind of, you know what these things are, right? They're like vacuum tubes, the old tubes that they used to have in things like TVs and radios and even computers, those old, Variac computers or whatever. I don't even think that's the right term for them, but ENIAC? Anyway. And so, vacuum tubes, they were, transistors replaced them eventually. And your computer has probably several million transistors in it, and that's why it works the way it does. But before transistors, they had these things. And I used to have an old tube radio when I was a kid. My grandfather gave it to me, and I loved listening to top 40 music on AM CKOC 1150 here in my town. And they played all the hits. And of course, I had to my parents bought me all the 45s and everything so I could play them and listen to them. And so I remember that. And so it kind of worked weirdly because when I created my YouTube channel back in 2006, and thank God it's back, by the way. Thank you, God. Thank all you people for doing whatever it is you did to help get these channels back, because I'm very happy about it. And I have you to thank. I know I have you to thank. When I created the channel, it was YouTube, right? So YouTube was like new. And so I thought, well, they want a username. So I thought, well, what am I going to call my username? And I thought, well, I'll just call it CraigTube. Because that seemed to make sense to me, because it was me that they were talking about when they said YouTube. So there you go. And now the tube thing, with the tube radio, it kind of connects with the Craig tube thing, except I left out the Craig and went just with tube radio. And that's why I made this shirt. And tgtshirts.com, by the way, if you want to buy one of these, that would help a lot. It'd be great for that kind of thing to happen. And there's other shirts there as well. tgtshirts.com. Go to the right-hand side of the screen. You'll see my stuff there. He's got it up there, special, link there, and you can check these out. But the main thing I wanted to just talk about in the last part of this video is the fact that when I started doing the broadcast, which was 10 years ago, it was supposed to be a phone-in show, and I tried to figure out how can people call in, without paying long-distance bills and stuff like that, and how can I patch the calls through to my mixer and get them on the air and whatnot. And eventually we just used Skype, which back then wasn't very popular. Most people didn't even know what Skype was. And when it was, evident that not many people were going to call in at first, I just started playing music. And this was back on Justin TV. When I went to college as I was 19 years old or whatever, 20 years old. I went to college and I learned about, I took computer science or whatever they called it back then, and electronics. So I took electronics and I took computer data processing or whatever they called it. What I really wanted to do was take radio broadcasting. And, but because I'm legally blind, I didn't think that I would be able to do that because you have to read stuff, You have to read the news. You have to read the weather. You've got to read the traffic reports and all. So you have to be able to stand there in front of a microphone and do things, put on records and tapes and things, and then be able to read information. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do that, so I decided not to take radio broadcasting. But I'll tell you something. There's one class I had, or as an English class or something, or one of my classes where I had to walk by the radio broadcasting hallway where they had all the classes for that. I yearned to go in there and learn how to be a broadcaster. Well, now with today's technology and the internet, I can be a broadcaster. I can be a radio broadcaster. I can be a DJ. And I've talked to people who were in the business. And there are broadcasters out there on Vaughn.live that used to work in radio and that now don't, because it's not the same as it used to be. It used to be you had tapes and records and you were putting stuff in and taking stuff out. You were changing records and you were putting on a show live. You had to get up and go to the back and grab a tape and push that into a cart machine. You had to grab a record and cue that up. You playing songs. They don't do that anymore. It's all electronic. It's all computerized. It's all, it just happens. Nobody's even there. There's no DJ there. So some of us have decided to recreate that environment. And it's an enhanced version because not only can you hear the music and the commercials and the sweepers and, but you also got a chat room there and you can see the DJ. You can see him working. I think that's really amazing. So I play retro music, 60s, 70s, 80s, some modern stuff, but not much because, I won't get into that. And it's a show. It's a radio show. And some of us have decided that this is what we want to do. And this is what we want to recreate because we miss real radio shows. So that's what I do. And that's why it's called your tube radio, because it's the old style radio that you're used to if you're as old as I am, that you grew up with. And if you're not as old as I am, well, then you need to experience what radio used to be like, and even better, because there's a chat room, and the chat rooms are amazing. There's great people in there. You don't have to worry about being shy or anything, because you're going to get welcomed with open arms. So, tgtshirts.com, tube radio. Sad. Very, very sad. Seeing everyone walking around like this. It really is. Can't see your smile. Can't see your facial expression. Can't see what you're thinking. What mood you're in. You know, I'm looking at you guys right now going, hey, but you can't see that. So hopefully everyone will socially, do the rules, follow everything. Got to get this thing over with, man. This is terrible. Cheers, everybody. Be safe. See ya very soon. Take care. Thank you.